welcome to episode 64 of the Craft House Magic podcast. My name is Ellie and I'm coming to you from Norwich in Norfolk in the UK, and I'm here to share all my crafty things with you. So it's been a couple of weeks since I last podcasted, even though I've started to do it every week, because I did Edinburgh Yarn Festival vlog for last week, and then the week before I was away in Edinburgh for the whole week. So that was rather lovely. Hope you enjoyed the vlog if you've had a chance to catch up with that, and there are some confessions at the end of that video. I'm not going to repeat what my confessions were, so there are additional confessions in today's episode. Oh dear. So you can find me on Instagram, Ravelry, Facebook, etc. as Craft House Magic, and I've got my own website, crafthousemagik.co.uk, where I sell my handmade items, and I've also decided to put up my patterns, knitting patterns on there as well. So there are some free ones, including some socks, as well as a couple of paid for patterns, but it's all on the shop section of my website, crafthousemagik.co.uk. I think I've decided to do one longer podcast once a month, because my friend Lorraine suggested that they weren't long enough all the time. So now I'm doing them once a week. They're generally about 20 minutes long, but I thought perhaps if I just do one a month that's sort of 40 minutes, well, we'll see how long they get, but it'll be slightly longer than the shorter regular one, where I'll do Blast from the Past and Gadget section, because I will run out of gadgets and Blast from the Past if I do more than once a month, you see. So that's how I'm going to go forward. So I've got the knit-alongs and craft-alongs to talk about. So we've just finished the Edinburgh Yarn Festival ones, where we had a discussion thread and a finished objects thread, and I drew some prizes for both of those, and I've put that over in the Ravelry thread now if you want to go and look at that. But we need another craft-along, don't we? So Caroline from the Love to Sew podcast and I have decided to do the shawl along together. So the shawl along will run till the end of May, and you can enter any shawl that's either knitted or crocheted that you've knitted less than 50% on. So if you've got one started, bring it out and come and join us. I'd love to see what you've got on your needles, or on your crochet hook, should I say. So we're going to have the discussion thread over in my Ravelry group, Craft House Magic, and then the finished objects thread will be in Caroline's Ravelry group, but I'll put the links in the show notes anyway to that. So we've got some knitting, some sewing, a blast from the past, a gadget, some confessions, which I shouldn't have really, because I showed you some in my Edinburgh Yarn Festival video. Oh dear. Some information on what's going on my shop update this Friday, which is Friday the 5th of April at 7 o'clock. And then I've got a question from the Ask Me Anything thread from Ravelry. So let's get started. I'm having my sip from my cup, which I'm twins with Caroline from the Love to Sew podcast, and it's from Julia Davy pottery from Bath in Somerset. Isn't that sweet? I always show this mug, so you're probably sick of seeing it. Anyway, right, knitting projects. This is sort of finished, but kind of not, because one, I haven't blocked it, and two, I might add something to it. So I shall straighten it out for a bit before I show you. So this is my northeasterly scarf. So I've now completed the length that I wanted to do. So since the last podcast, I've done one entire stripe, which is this top one here, across the top, there. And I've also knitted from here, because I extended it on all of the rows all the way down, as I think that's long enough now. Let's see how it looks. Hopefully, hopefully it's not too hot in here. So we've got a nice length there, really, really cosy. But I'm thinking that I still need to do some I-cord edging around the edges of it and around these points, because I think that that'll finish them off nicely, and on the other end of the chevrons this side as well. I decided in the end not to join it as one continuous loop, because I really liked seeing these ends there, so I thought I'd keep those. So there we go, but it's lovely and cosy. But one thing I haven't decided yet is whether I'll do one colour of I-cord all the way around, or do sort of little minis out of my stash and use different colours all the way around. We'll see. So it's I haven't folded it up very tidy, but there's lots of lovely yarny squishiness there. So that's going to look lovely on. I think that I'll definitely wear this, and it's a nice warm thing to have. Right, so that's my sort of finished object, and I've got a couple of works in progress to show you. So just before Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I picked out a little, or not a little, it was a huge ball that was self-striping that my friend Lorraine from Purple Rain on Instagram had given me as a gift. And this is how much I've got left. It's a bit silly that I'm showing you how much I've got left before I show you the project. I'm out of practice, aren't I? So during Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I decided to just knit on these and then do afterthought heels and toes so that I didn't have to concentrate. And then I got a bit carried away, and I've basically knitted my entire arm span. So isn't that a lovely sequence of colours? So Lorraine dyed this herself, and at the moment she doesn't sell her yarn, but I think she should. Isn't that lovely? So I'm going to make these into 2 pairs of socks. I'm going to knit the entire ball and then add contrast heels and toes to make 2 pairs. And I'll obviously have to add a cuff to the other pair because I'll have 2 cuffs at the ends for 1 pair, and then I'll add some different colour cuffs for the other pair. But I managed to do quite a bit on that when we were at Edinburgh Yarn Festival and for car knitting as well. So I've done lots of quite simple knitting since I've podcast last, so there we go. But at Edinburgh Yarn Festival I picked up a kit. So if you saw the confessions section from the Edinburgh Yarn Festival vlog, you'll have seen that I've bought this yarn. So I'd picked up the Kyla kit to knit this lovely shawl from Edinburgh Yarn Festival from the Garth and Orr stall. So this is by Isabel Kramer, and it's a beautiful triangular shawl with lots of this repetitive lace detail. And it came with the yarn that it was designed for in the kit, and it was Ronus, Garth and Orr Ronus, and it's a 50-gram ball of 4-ply weight yarn, and it's 100% organic Shetland, and it's from the Uredale farm in Shetland. So isn't that lovely? It's not the softest yarn in the world, but I think that'll be soft enough to go sort of around my face. We were testing it in Edinburgh Yarn Festival on the Garth and Orr stall, me and Claire holding the shawls up to our face, 1 end each. So if anybody saw us looking ridiculous, we knew what we were doing. We had method to our madness, as they say. So I've done this much so far. So I've started from this end and knitted quite a few repeats of the lacy pattern. You might be able to see it better against my top because it's black, but it's quite a nice simple lace detail, and that's coming along lovely. It's going to be quite huge, so it might take me a little while to finish this, but I thought it would be appropriate for the shawl along that we're doing. I'm also going to be casting on one of the Stephen West Vertices Unites as well, but I need to get my yarn caked up for that, and I'll show you those yarns on my next episode next week. So that's all my knitting actually. It's surprising how little it looks, but I suppose because my shawl scarfy thingy northeasterly, that took me quite a long time because it's gone quite a tight gauge to do the full length of the scarf. So we've got the sewing section next. So I decided to make some pyjamas for Edinburgh Yarn Festival because a group of us were staying in a hotel and we all decided to have a sort of pyjama party on one evening in the bar. So we all came down in our pyjamas. If you saw the vlog, you'll have seen us come down the stairs all together, all embarrassed. So I decided to make pyjama bottoms for Adam and I, and he wanted some slithering ones. So I picked up this green and grey plaid fabric from our local sewing shop on Magdalen Street in Norwich. And that was perfect to go with his slithering top that he's got. So this pattern I actually drafted from a pair of pyjamas that he had years ago, and it's not a particularly good draft of a pattern, but it seems to fit him, so it doesn't matter. And I haven't pattern matched it at all, so they're not the best pair. Don't look too closely at the pattern matching, because I basically decided to make them the night before we went to Edinburgh, so that's why they're not so good. So there we go. So that's a pair for Adam. And then I picked up some pale blue and grey fabric for me. And this, there we go. So these are slightly better pattern match because I made these first. These are made out of a flannel fabric and I totally haven't ironed them since I've washed them, so I apologise for that. But these are made out of the Sew Over It Ultimate Pyjama pattern, and I've made a couple of pairs of these before. The first pair I did, and I drafted up to 2 sizes bigger than the pattern had. And I found that it was way too long in the body. So the second pair I made, I cut off shorter, so they still felt big. So I ended up cutting down to the largest size of the pyjama pattern. And I think that these actually fit me better in the way I like them to fit anyway. They don't feel too oversized. But I really like this sort of plaid print on a flannel. I prefer having flannel pyjamas rather than the normal plaid fabric. It's much cosier. So the Ultimate Pyjama pattern says about doing some cords to go around the waist, but I've just put some elastic in there instead. And this is the no roll elastic. I think it was Hemline Make It in a little pink box. And that really is comfortable and it doesn't roll over at all, because sometimes I've had it where I've had elastic in the trousers and it bends over and it just is a nightmare. But this works lovely. So there we go. There's my second pair of pyjamas that I made up for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So you can see on the Edinburgh Yarn Festival vlog me and Adam wearing those. So the next section is Blast from the Past. So normally I show you things that I've made over the years, but this time, and maybe a few more episodes in the future, I'll show you some of the dresses that my auntie had made for my grandma. So my dad's mum died before I was born, so all of these dresses have been in a wardrobe for about 40 years. And it's just such a shame that they haven't been brought out, because they were all lovely handmade items. And plus, if they fit me, I'd wear them now. They're so lovely. So Barbara, would you like to come over and show us one of these dresses? Thank you, Barbara. Barbara's lost weight. Because these dresses are so much smaller than me, I've actually reduced the size of Barbara so that you can see them more. Unfortunately, Barbara is a little bit bigger than my grandma used to be, so she's not done up properly at the back, which I'll show you in a second. So this is an A-line skirt which just goes past the knee. I will put in some footage of me panning down the dress so you can see it a little bit better than just on camera like this. But it's made out of this gorgeous, I think it's a wool fabric, and my aunties used 2 different types of fabric that look as if they were bought out of the same collection, because they match perfectly, with a nice sort of plaid pattern on the top here. And they're full length sleeves, and what's interesting is there's a really lovely dart shaping here where the panels of the top panel join the bottom. There's a dart shaping that goes up through them both, and I thought that was a really interesting feature. And I wish I could get into this dress. It's gorgeous. I'd so wear it now. It's amazing that it's been in the wardrobe for 40 years. So I'll now show you the back. You can see how Barbara is a bit broader at the top here than my nanny was, so you can't quite see how it would fit normally, but you get the idea. It's easier to see it on Barbara than on a hanger. But there's some beautiful darts around the back, and they've got a zip that's been sewn in beautifully with full lining in there, and it's gorgeous. It's such a shame that it's been in the wardrobe for so long, really. But I'll turn her around again. And inside it's been overlocked nicely and top stitched. I can't believe how lovely and neat this top stitching goes all the way down, and it's been all hand sewn, the hem inside, which is gorgeous, and beautifully lined with a pink, which goes nicely. Thank you very much, Barbara. So I had a look online to see if I could find which vintage pattern that they'd been used. I'm afraid I couldn't find it, but I have a few more dresses to show you in the coming episodes, and hopefully I'll be able to find some patterns that sort of coordinate with these vintage dresses that I have. So hopefully I'll be able to show you a few more of those in the future. So we've now got the gadget section. So this month's gadget is a needle threader and cutter. I thought that this is so cute. So it's a little bird, and you lift the little plastic cover off, and this is a needle threader, which is nice and portable. And then there's a little bit of a blade just inside there, so you can cut your threads, which I think is really useful. Cover my face up so you can see it. Isn't that lovely? And you could hang that on a chain if you wanted to around your necklace. So that's this week's gadget, and I picked this up a little while ago from a shop called Abercarn in Shrewsbury, which is a relatively new shop, and it came in this packaging if you were looking for that. But I think that there are some different makes of those as well, so keep an eye out for those. It says Le Needlebird on there, and there's some instructions of how to use it on the back. There we go. But you get the gist of the needle threader, like being one of the old-fashioned needle threaders, really. So that's the gadget for this week. Very useful. I think that might be really good if you're going on holiday or something and you don't want to take any scissors for cutting yarn as well as sewing with a needle and thread. That might be useful. So I've now got my confession section. I better get started. So some of these are gifts as well. So when we were up in Edinburgh, my lovely friend Shelley took us up to a beautiful patchwork fabric shop called Purely Patchwork in a place called Linlithgow, and it was quite a easy sort of half an hour's drive from Edinburgh, I think. I picked up some fabrics. So they're all sort of quite pale batik style fabrics, so I picked those up, and I have a project in mind which hopefully I'll have sorted out by the weekend so I can show you some of. So it's a little patchwork wall hanging that I'm doing, and I chose these colours so that they'd sort of go with my living room theme, but I've probably bought too much. I've got half a metre of each, but if I'm going to make something else to go in the living room I need more of it, so I wouldn't want to miss out. I especially like this one. It looks like a sort of a leaf print there, and then there's, I'll show you them a little bit closer up, but they look really nice, subtle patterns, really lovely. Just sit and look at these for an hour. But they're really nice. Actually, this one is only a fat quarter as well, but I thought that that would be a nice darker tonal to go in with that. I also picked up another advent calendar panel. I thought that I'd either work on this or I'd either give it away as a giveaway later in the year, but I thought that was so cute. I'd seen somebody else make up this same panel, and the houses are so cute. I already have 2 advent calendars in the house, so I probably don't need any more. You can't have too many Christmas decorations, okay? We'll see. We might give that as away as a prize for the podcast. So last week as well, after I'd been to Edinburgh, I popped to Sheringham. Well, this weekend my parents had visited because it was Mother's Day, so we went up on Saturday and had a look around Sheringham. And if you go to Sheringham, you need to go to the fabric shops there. There's 2 sort of craft shops. My favourite one of the 2 is called Owl Tree Crafts. That's in Sheringham, and this is another boutique, sort of on the same lines as the other one. A really pretty dotty boutique fabric. So I'm pleased I picked that up. It's like a little souvenir from our day out. So that's the fabric that I've actually bought. I had a lovely gift from a couple of my friends at Edinburgh Yarn Festival that they passed on to me. And I got given this gorgeous little pack. What are they actually called? They're not charm packs, are they? They're the smaller ones, but they're all different grey and black shades. Really pretty little squares. Oh, they're so cute. So I also got a beautiful piece of red and black with writing on it. Isn't that pretty? So I think that's a sort of Japanese style fabric. It looks like it might be Japanese writing, but I'm not quite sure if it is because I can't read Japanese writing. But that's lovely. Thank you ever so much. So that's all the sort of fabric-y things that I'd picked up. But I also got a lovely bag from my friend Jo, who is SoCan Jo on Instagram. And she knows I love this fabric. This is the Rifle Paper Company print with some beautiful flowers on. So Jo is SoCan Jo on Instagram. And I'm trying to persuade her to open her own shop to sell these bags. And it says little made by Jo on there. Isn't that cute? So I haven't got anything in here yet apart from the sweetie she popped in for me and a beautiful tape measure. But it's a huge bag. So that'll be lovely to use. Thank you, Jo. I'm going to put my next garment in there. It's huge. One thing I forgot to show you on my Edinburgh Yarn Festival haul was that I got a Stephen and Penelope bag. I just like this, just really nice and simple, and it's just as a sort of like a little token of my visit, so I'm pleased I picked that up. And that's like a nice big tote bag that I can use for bits and bobs, and it's black so it won't show the dirt. My friend Jo also gave me this pattern book by Anne Budd, which I'd had my eye on for ages, and she had a spare copy, so she passed that on to me. So that'll be great because I want to start sort of designing my own versions of jumpers and cardigans and things, so that'll be really useful. Probably just design them for myself, not to actually sell patterns, but you know, make your own designs up for you personally. So that'll be fun to use. Thank you, Jo. What else did I get? So, the lovely Zoe from Pins and Needles had passed some of these beautiful pins onto me that she'd used for bobbin lace when she did it a while ago, and she doesn't do it anymore. So she, lovely, so kind to give me these as well. So there's a kingfisher there, there's a squirrel, and a little Santa, and they're all made of glass. A hedgehog, and then we've got 2 Welsh dragons. Aren't they brilliant? So thank you so much, Zoe. That's brilliant. So if you don't watch Zoe, you must. She's at Pins and Needles podcast on YouTube, and I'll pop a link in the show notes for that. But very excitingly, Zoe is starting up a new yarn brand. She's releasing it at Wonderwool Wales, which is coming up, I think that's the Easter weekend, or not far from it. But if you go to Wonderwool Wales, you'll know. So she's introducing this new yarn range. Aren't they gorgeous colours? I'm going to try and pronounce it. I think it says Cartref yarn. But they're beautiful shades. And I'm really liking this pink shade at the top, which is called Draig. Please excuse my Welsh pronunciation. And this sort of tealy blue one, which is Sapphire, and this natural one, which is Naturel. I'll show you the actual writing rather than trying to pronounce things absolutely terribly. But they're all DK weight yarns, and they've been spun from some carefully selected fleeces that Zoe's chosen herself. Aren't they gorgeous? So definitely keep an eye out for that at Wonderwool Wales. And then she said that she's going to be listing some on the website if there's any left after the show. So keep an eye out for that. So best of luck with your new yarn range, Zoe. So as you know, I went to Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I keep saying Edinburgh Yarn Festival today, sorry. But with some lovely ladies, and one of those ladies that we stayed in the same hotel with was Hayley from Ducky Darlings, and she gave me a little mini, and that's a lovely pink and cream coloured yarn. So she's also on her own website, which is duckydarlings.com, and it says the details on the back of the card. There we go. So that was lovely. I also bumped into Lee of the Lou Lee podcast, and she gave me one of her lovely pins. So there we go. I should have shown these bits and bobs on the Edinburgh Yarn Festival vlog, but it was just so much things to think about that I completely forgot. And I also saw Mars from the Hey Brown Berry podcast, and she gave me this gorgeous pencil. I haven't sharpened it yet, Mars, but I will be using it to be drawing out my dressmaking patterns with. Pencils are always really useful for that sort of thing. So thank you to everybody who come and said hello at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, or takes the time to send messages to on YouTube and on Instagram and everything. I really appreciate you taking the time to say hello. So the lovely Annalise from Australia had contacted me to say could she send me some things from her Etsy shop, and she's got an Etsy shop and she comes from Australia, and her Etsy shop is called Llamas and Knitting. And she's got some lovely project bags and progress keepers and stitch markers. And she'd sent me a Harry Potter bag with a handle and a little pull cord there on with a zip. And inside that there's some really pretty floral fabric. And there's her little label on the inside. So that's a nice size for a sock knitting project. And she also does these progress keepers that she makes out of polymer clay. And she sent me a little donut, a little slice of pizza, and a little apple with some sweeties in there as well. So these will become part of prizes for the up and coming knit-alongs and craft-alongs that I've got going. What I'll probably do is have one of the progress keepers come with this bag, and then the other progress keepers can be part of other prizes with like a bag or a skein of yarn. So thank you so much, Annalise. So don't forget to pop over to her shop on Etsy, which is called Llamas and Knitting. So I will show them as well when I've decided what knit-alongs I'm going to be giving this bag away for. I think for the shawl along I'll have a bag made by myself, because Caroline from the Love to Sew podcast is also going to be putting a bag for a prize there as well. So this will be for the next knit-along, but I shall show it when I've introduced the next knit-along we've got coming. And I think it'll be a sock one, so this sock size bag will be perfect. So I think that's all my things that I've got purchased or been given in the last couple of weeks. And I've just got 2 sections left. I'm going to talk about my shop update, and the Ask Me Anything question will be at the end. So if you want to listen to that, stick around. So I've got the shop update on Friday at 7 o'clock, the 5th of April. So it's 7 o'clock UK time. And I'll have got some Over the Rainbow sets. You can purchase this on its own or have an additional mini if you want to. And I think I'm going to list them differently. So rather than saying it's selling as a sock set, you'll need to put the skein of yarn in your basket and then go back and add the mini. But it'll be in the same listing. It'll just come in the drop down box. But you'll have to add it twice, if that makes sense. I've actually got this dyed up on a number of bases. So normally I'll have just done this on my merino nylon base, but I've got some stellina base dyed up, which is merino nylon and stellina, and also on my BFL base as well. So if anybody wants to grab one of those. This is designed to be a micro striping yarn in a sock. So I'm not quite sure what it'll probably pull if you knitted something else with it, but ideal for sock knitting. Or sort of mittens, anything like that. I've restocked my Saving All My Love For You colourway, and that's sort of greys, greens and some subtle purples in there. I'm probably going to include one of these in my Vertices Unite shawl. I have to save one of those for myself, and that'll be on a number of bases as well. And lastly, there'll be some Land of Make Believe restocked in the shop, because that will be completely sold out. So there we go. That's all the stuff that's going to go in the shop. So last of all, I've got the Ask Me Anything question, and it was from the Ravelry group, but I'm afraid I didn't take a note of the person's name who asked me the question, so I'm so sorry. But the question was, why do I do the reverse centre double decrease on the back of the square for the Cozy Memories blanket? So this is my Cozy Memories blanket, and I've written a little description of how I make the squares. I've also done some tutorials on here on YouTube. You can find links in my show notes on my website if you wanted to look for that. So the reason why I do it on the back rather than on the front is because that when I'm knitting the front of the work, I can just knit all the way across and sort of have a row where I'm not having to think of anything. I just like to do it all on the back for some reason. Goodness knows why. It's just the way I like to do it. And I'm sure there's many other ways of doing it, but we all have our own little preferences, don't we? So there we go. So I think that's all for today. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to join you next week with a shorter episode, and I hope you have a lovely crafty time in the meantime. Bye!